So I wanted to talk about Mass Effect Initiation, just some of my random thoughts on it. The book stars Cora as our main protagonist, who, as we all know, is an Asari Huntress. But curiously enough, book Cora doesn't say she is an Asari Huntress as much as game Cora. Her background is used a lot more tactically than in-game. When it is mentioned, it is used to great effect for her character. Cora's character, similar to how she is in-game, isn't certain why she joined the Andromeda Initiative, and like in the game, she does understand why her previous commanding officer, Nasira Tokosh, said she should leave. So already we are getting some of what she is like in the game. She feels out of place and can't really feel like she belongs anywhere. So this book then must be focusing on setting up the Cora we know in-game, right? Not really. What is interesting here is that the book addresses this, thus creating an inconsistency between the game and the book. Cora's issue is resolved at the end of the book as she understands that Nasira knew that she would have been happy to stay with Talin's daughters for the rest of her life, but she wouldn't have felt like she belonged and connected with what they were doing. To clarify, to be connected in a personal and more primal manner, a way that you only feel when you truly believe and want something. Cora throughout her life had never really felt like that. She has friends who she cares about, but has any issue connecting with them. In the book, her friend Gianna, another one of Talin's daughters, says as much, calling out her reasonings for joining as not her own, as her reasonings were fairly generic. I joined the initiative to explore the stars, or to advance humanity forward. Cora found her reason. After thinking about it and talking with Alec, she knows that she wants to a place to be needed, to belong to something, and to fight for something. The Andromeda Initiative provided that for her. A powerful biotic would be needed in a new galaxy. The Andromeda Initiative also would make a new society that would make people like Cora feel welcomed. While biotics are far more respected in the Alliance military, it isn't so in everyday life. From what we know in-game and in prior books, biotics aren't seen as a good thing by most humans. Even this book makes an effort to show that there are movements that try to demonize biotics, and because the initiative is trying to do that, Cora has something to fight for and believe in. The issue is that the game doesn't account for this growth. In-game, in fact, it doesn't account for a lot of stuff in the book, but we'll get to that later. In-game, it does feel like Cora isn't sure why she joined the initiative, even though at the end of initiation she should know why. So why didn't she? One of the reasons is that story would be interesting to show in-game, and I can see why. Exploring a character who feels unsure of themselves is a great idea for the colonization story. Why did they travel so far? What will they do when they find it? All great stuff. But the issue still remains that there are now two Coras. I'm not saying either one is better, just that I dislike when characterizations across media is inconsistent. It's fine if game Cora was the main one, or the other way around, but it isn't good if there are multiple different versions. Now I do think you can argue that her development in the book is acknowledged in the game. She doesn't quite understand why she is joining, nor why Nasira sent her, but it does feel like she's implying she still doesn't understand why she is doing this. Also, if you progress in her story, she says she feels somewhat fooled by Alec and Nasira, but that is odd considering she knows why Nasira did what she did at the end of initiation, and should only feel fooled by Alec because he lied to her about a lot of things. Not that he fooled her into going. With the book in mind, it feels like Cora's character in Andromeda should either be similar to Caden, a stable person whose stories come from not conflict but how their past shaped them into who they are today, or how her character should be about trying to see how she can fulfill her desires, which the game does to an extent, but it should be a bigger focus. The game also doesn't talk about these events, which is weird because they could have used it to give Cora more things to say instead of her having her focus so narrowly on her being an Asari Huntress. Cora could have talked about Sam and have party banter that she had as a version of Sam in her head. Another inconsistency is how Cora talks about being an Asari Huntress. In the book, Cora mentions to the characters that she did serve as an Asari Huntress, but only says it when talking to characters who need to know. Cora in-game views being an Asari Huntress as part of her identity, who she fundamentally is. Book Cora doesn't think like that. It is important to her and a part of her, but not to the extent the game portrays. She especially would not act how game Cora acted, trying to find and talk about the Asari arc. Game Cora treated finding the Asari arc as finding their saviors, even though book Cora didn't think of the Asari highly, but she wouldn't have thought of them as saviors. Throughout the book, she is accused of being a blue pie, a term for an Asari weeaboo, because she dresses and ate like them, even though she didn't have much of an option. She would dress like a human if she could, which arises the question, why did they make Cora different in the book and games? The obvious answer is that Game Cora was the easiest character to use in the quest of finding the Asari arc. She already has an established relationship with them, making her suited to the task, and the quest could be used to explore her character more. She is also the only companion we know who has been with the Asari for a long time, and thus be used to exposit about. But it's not like book Cora wouldn't have done that also. She has the same backstory, so it feels like it is something else. It can be that book Cora was addressing some of the criticisms thrown at game Cora. Now, I don't have a lot of evidence for this, that it is the case. Not a lot of information came out describing the development of the books, but what we do know is that Mass Effect Initiation and Mass Effect Annihilation were delayed from the original launch, releasing months later. Mass Effect Initiation released in 28th November 2017, 6 months later. Now commercial book developments takes about 19 months to 2 years, and these books have been in development since August 2016. So they are all nearly finished, give or take. My thinking is that after Andromeda's release, they delayed Initiation to use the extra time to address issues people had with the game. This is why Game Cora doesn't acknowledge a lot of what happened in the book, because the book had Game Cora originally, but was changed due to criticisms towards her. The book was nearly finished, and if there were any delays, I don't think it would be 6 months. But I don't have any reasons to believe this is true, because I could be missing something. I feel like it is true though. I do like a book Cora a bit more than game Cora, as I think the book really addresses some of the odd choices made with her, but I do have to say that while I do like the book, I do take issues with it trying to fix Cora, as it creates issues that weren't there before. Cora was just Cora, but now there are two different Coras that conflict with each other. Not massively, but it is noticeable. Anyways, there are other things I want to talk about. I like that we got more screen time, page time. With Alec, it made sense to kill him off so that our writer can take control, but it does leave him feeling a bit underdeveloped. The memories help a lot, but the books give us so much more. Reading him being a grumpy old grandpa is quite fun, and seeing the regretful side of him is very humanizing. He failed a lot, and he did deserve a lot of it. He was an MC-teen father and husband, regretting what he did. In the games we see the Alliance as the face of humanity, but in lore they don't represent everyone. There's a side to humanity that isn't explored that often. The books give us the Union of Incorporated Nations, showing us their dealings and influence over Earth and the Alliance. They are a lot more morally ambiguous given the circumstances they are in, and so all their dealings have this dark side to them. It made sense that Mass Effect didn't explore them, because it would take the story off track, but it is cool to finally get some information about them. Artificial intelligence is a constant in the series, and Initiation is no different. But Sam can't be used as he is stuck in Alec's head, so we get Sam E, Simulated Adaptive Matrix Experiment for Cora. Sam-E makes sense to exist for a number of reasons. Cora can talk to someone, giving us a lot more of her character and by proxy Sam. The two start out rocky, as Cora doesn't like the idea of having a voice in her head, but as the books go on, they begin to form a genuine relationship. It is also great to see that Cora immediately knows Sam-E is more than just an advanced VI. She is a smart character, and allowing her to know he is more than a VI is a great way to show off her character. It also makes the books a lot more better to read and listen to, as Cora is talking to someone instead of just herself. Sam-E also explains why Cora couldn't be Pathfinder, even though there were more than enough explanations for why she didn't become Pathfinder. Sam-E was also made so that Alec could transfer Sam to his successor, but his Sam was basically tied to him on a genetic level. Sam-E could bypass that, but in the end it wasn't meant to be, as Sam-E wasn't properly integrating with Cora, and if it went on for too long, it would have damaged her on a biological level. So there is one issue I have, but I will need to do some explaining. The book's basic plot is that Cora is being sent to recover Sam's stolen AI code package. A big mystery in the book is figuring out who stole the code package and what they're trying to do with it. It is revealed that the person who stole the code wanted it in as many human hands as possible. From that we can imply that the person who leaked it is pro-human. That leaves the suspect being Elusive Man or a member/associate of the Union of Incorporated Nations. Though I argue that the Elusive Man wouldn't be the culprit, as he would want it to be in Cerberus' hands only. He wouldn't have let it fall into the hands of just anyone. And the UIN is the likely suspect because they want humanity and their nations to have an edge against the Alliance and the galaxy. But at the end of the book, Jane Garson is being accused of leaking the code by Cora, but says that she didn't leak the code and that there is someone more powerful than her pulling the strings. That they are manipulating the Alliance and UIN, which the only other character we know of who can do this is the Benefactor and the Shadow Broker. But why would the Benefactor leak the code, risking the whole Andromeda Initiative? Because if the code gets traced back to the Initiative, then it'll collapse, meaning that the reason they supported the plan to continue civilization is gone. Jean Garson may not know that, but that's definitely what the Benefactor is trying to do, and so it wouldn't make sense that the Benefactor leaked it. As for the Shadow Broker, I can see why he would want it, but he wouldn't exclusively give that kind of technology to humans. He would give it to as many people as possible to give him the most power. And the Elusive Man still isn't a suspect because of what was mentioned before, which definitely has a lot of power, but he doesn't have as much power as described by Garson for him to manipulate both the Alliance and the UIN on a grand scale. The UIN is out because Garson says they're manipulating the UIN. They can be a suspect, but everyone we encounter who is related to them is clearly just working for them. I feel frustrated at this because we don't know who this mysterious person is. We don't have any inclination. It feels like a last-minute addition for no reason. If you have a theory on who this is, or am I just missing something, please do tell. Some minor things I thought were cool is female writer voiced the book. Siri Dakosh has two husbands, a Krogan and a Turian, who all sleep in the same bed. Kalisa Al-Jalani, hate is always welcomed. We also get what a Korean space station looks like, and some cool horror vibes with an evil AI making superhumans. And these are my random thoughts on the book. I like this book a lot because it gave us a lot of insight on the world, but also on how it wrote Cora. I like this interpretation of Cora a lot more than the one in game. I feel like book Cora makes a lot more sense than game Cora, even though I do enjoy game Cora still. What do you think about the book? Do you like it or dislike it? What do you think about Cora in this book?